Snorkeling with sea turtles, taking a helicopter over a glacier, or parasailing over Disney's Castaway Cay. There can be some amazing excursions on your Disney cruise, but how do you find the best ones for you and your family? Well, that's today on the DIS Unlimited's DCL Show. Hello and welcome to the DIS Unlimited's DCL Show. I'm Chris Forbeck, one of the agents at Dreams Unlimited Travel. Thanks so much for joining us, as always. One of the amazing things about a cruise, yes, it's those amazing Disney ships, right? But you get to cruise to on those lovely ships to amazing locations: Alaska, Europe, Caribbean, the Bahamas. Oof. All of them are, I'm happy being on a Disney ship wherever I'm going, but there are also amazing locations you get to go to. Well, how do you find the right excursions? It can be intimidating. There are a lot of selections. So today we're going to go through some of our favorites. But guess what? We can't possibly go on every excursion. So, and guess what? They change as well. So even more important than offering you some specific recommendations, we're going to walk you through how to go about finding the best excursion that works for you and your family. And here to do that with me is Dreams Unlimited travel agent Elaine Edwards. Hello, Elaine.
Hi, friends.
Dreams Unlimited travel agent and the person behind Dreams Spanish podcast and website, See Disney. Hello, Federico Argar.
Hello.
And of course, we have our amazing producer, Jimmy Valdez, who makes us look so pretty. Hello, Jimmy.
Hello.
Thank you guys for being here. Thank you folks for being here. And thank you for being here, of course. We're going to talk about excursions and we have some news for you as well. With the Disney Destiny. We got our first view of it, so we'll talk a little bit about that. But I get to remind you that this show, along with everything we do at the DIS Unlimited, DCL Fan, UO Fan, all of it, brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel. We are experts at helping you plan your magical Disney cruise, your visit to a magical Disney theme park, your Universal adventure, Epic Universe, even other cruise lines. There's no additional cost to book with Dreams Unlimited Travel, none. But we're going to give you insights about your Disney cruise ship, excursions, your Disney park, which park you're going to, where you're staying, tips for your Universal adventure. This is what we do. And by booking your cruise with Dreams Unlimited Travel, you get a shipboard credit of up to $1,000, depending on the price of your cruise. And I always hear people say you don't get anything for free. This is one of these cases where you get free money to spend on board, and it doesn't cost you one dime. Not bad. Best way to get started, dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. And I always like noting, by way of transparency, all of us, Elaine, Federico, me, we are all Dreams Unlimited travel agents. Yes, this is our job. It's what we do. But we do this because we really love Disney and we love Disney Cruise Line, and we want you to have the best time possible. Our job, both here on this podcast and as agents, is to give you information so you can make the best decision for you and your family. And as Disney fans know, sometimes us Disney fans are fairly critical about what we like and what we don't like, right? But we always hope you book with Dreams Unlimited Travel. It literally allows us to do this. It supports us and this organization. And if you don't, we still hope you have a good time, and we want to give you information so we can help make that trip amazing. Before we dive into excursions, Elaine, the Disney Destiny, it had its float out. And we are recording this in August. As we're recording this, we got our first look. We just got the glimpse of the Disney Destiny. And the Disney Destiny, of course, the 7th ship in the Disney Cruise Line growing fleet of ships. It is the 3rd Wish-class ships. It has this hero-villain theme. And you can find more about it DCLfan.com. The shipyard, Meyer Wharf, where these ships are built, put out a lovely video of the float out, and it's only about 2.5. Some of them are like 40 minutes long, and it's a little bit too much for me. But you can see that DCLfan.com has it there. Elaine, are you excited for this ship and seeing it actually out on the water? For me, just I get a little chills.
Yeah, the float out is kind of like that first, like, oh, it's a real thing. It's actually really happening, right, with all of the, with any ship that they are building. They talk about them for years, and first they will make an announcement, usually at one of the like D23 events, and that's usually like 4 or 5 years out, and then we kind of get little glimpses here and there and here and there, and now we're up to the point we know about all of the lounges and the restaurants and the room themes and all of that, but it's still all just artist renderings and that kind of thing. But then when they do the float out, it's kind of like we are seeing the full ship for the first time. It's like it's a real ship, and it just kind of
Yeah.
really gets you excited, especially if you have a cruise on that ship booked. And so it kind of makes things a little more real.
Federico, you were doing a preview cruise on the Disney Destiny in November. What are you most excited about for the Destiny?
Well, I have to say, when they showed the art concept of the atrium, the grand hall,
Yeah.
I wasn't very excited about it. I love the theme, but I didn't like the aesthetics. I thought it was very gold, and
A little
the
Vegas,
colors
right?
were,
A little,
yeah, too much in my
yeah.
opinion. And I think Wakanda has beautiful designs and colors that they could have put into the design to make it more, Wakandi like.
Yeah.
But after I saw what they did on the Disney Treasure, and I think the Disney Treasure is one of the most beautiful grand halls that they have at Disney Cruise Line. So I'm very excited to see how that is going to be in reality, because concept arts tend to be very different from what you see
Yeah.
when you're inside of the place. But overall, I think the theming of this new ship, the villains and heroes, is something that I'm very excited about. And of course, the Hercules show, one of my
Mm.
favorite movies. So I'm very excited to see that. And just it's a new ship, so whatever it is, I'm happy to have more options.
I was watching a WDW magazine, Walt Disney World magazine, had somebody who was up in Toronto and got to check out some of the work on the shows and the training. That's where they do where they learn everything. And it got me even more excited about that show. So I totally agree with you. I also wanted to bring up, and I was going to do this in another show, but I'm going to do it here. We also got an update. Construction has started on Disney Cruise Line's fourth Wish class ship. We don't know very much about this ship at all. Of course, the Disney Adventure will open later this year in December. It will have its inaugural cruise in December 2025. It will be ship number 8 in the Disney Cruise Line fleet, and it's kind of a one of a kind. And of course, we just mentioned the Disney Destiny, which will have its inaugural cruise in late November. This will be a brand new Wish class ship. And outside of that, we know very little about it. They have it numbered as S732. That's the number that the shipyard uses. And you actually, Disney Imagineers have used that number in various places throughout. As we're recording this here in August, we don't know much about it. But Elaine, I'm guessing D23 is coming up soon. And by the time this actually airs, that's probably happened. And we've talked about it in some form or fashion. So I'm guessing there'll be some news, and we'll maybe have a name for it and maybe a theme. But it's this one doesn't come out till 2027, so it will be fun to see what happens with yet another brand new ship.
It definitely will. It's kind of like I was just sitting here thinking when you were talking about it. It's like kind of like what's left. You know what I mean? Like what is the new thing? Like what is there left to make a theme on? And so it is very interesting. Like I'm one of those people. I do like the Wish class of ships, and it's so interesting because they are all so different from each other. It's the same skeleton, but they are so different. Unlike the
They
other
are.
classes, where they're basically pretty much twins, you know what I mean? Each of the two ships. These Wish class ships are so different. So it'll be very interesting to see what they come up with, what it's going to be. So
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts about it, Federico?
I think we're gonna have presence of those characters in stories that are very popular in Japan, like Duffy. Maybe
Yeah.
Jimmy knows more of this
This is
than I do.
just just to be
They,
clear, this will not be the next one that they just started is not the one that's going to Japan. This will still be a U.S. Well, we assume U.S. could be someplace else, but and then there's the Japan Wish class ship that's done by Oriental Land Company that
I
comes
thought you were
after
talking about that
this.
one.
Yeah, no, there's so many ships coming, it's hard to keep track of them
Well,
anymore. So
I mean, it's Disney Cruise Line, so we had a Avenger theme that has, like they mix the themes and the things that you see
yeah,
on each ship. Like it's not cohesive. So you get like Avenger theme on the treasure, and then Avenger is something different. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they put Asian stuff on the
yeah,
on the other ship. I don't know, but I think I would like to see more of the Renaissance stuff because I was talking to Jimmy the other day, and we millennials are the people who are traveling more to Disney, and we are consuming a lot of Disney right now. We have the money to do that, and we grow up with these movies from the 90s. And so I think that having something not superhero, Marvel or Star Wars on the grand hall, but something from the 90s, from the classic Disney films of the Renaissance,
so I
would be
will put
something
in
that I
my
would.
hope I will put in my hope that I hope the entertainment dining location, which you have Frozen, you have Coco, you have Lion King will be in the Destiny. I would love to see Encanto. Speaking of Federico, I know you were an Encanto fan. It's Colombian. I would love to. One of my favorite movies. Would love to see that space for as an Encanto space.
Yeah, I think
And
they have to do something more with Moana since it's Encanto and
so
Moana, I
popular.
believe, if I'm not mistaken, are the most popular Disney films from the past 5 years. So I think they should use more of that on Disney Cruise Line. So I wouldn't be surprised if they put Moana on the Grand Hold and do like
Yeah.
a Polynesian kind of theme, and then it makes sense because that's what I was saying. Disney do that. They put the Grand Hold with the theme, but then the show is from that team is in another ship, and then the
Right.
dining experiences are completely different. It's not cohesive. So yeah, maybe why not? I think Moana will be good. It's water and
Well, maybe by the time this airs, we actually know. So we'll see what happens. Let's talk about port adventures. And because this can be port adventures, excursions. And in fact, we were talking before we started that I actually put in a question in here, the difference between these two things. The words are interchangeable. Port adventures kind of implies that it's Disney run, but it's all good. It means you're getting off the ship and doing something. But Elaine, talk about port adventures, and I wanted to just reemphasize that we are going to talk about some specific excursions that we may have done. But what we really want to give you is kind of a how-to, how one goes about finding the best excursions, so you can kind of do this because there tend to be a lot of them, and it can be kind of overwhelming. Elaine, define what these are when you get off the ship, right? And you get to go off and do something, and there are all sorts of things that you can do, aren't there?
Correct. So, port adventures is Disney's term for shore excursions. So yes, as you said, it's very interchangeable. And what it essentially means is you are booking in advance. So you will do this based on your Castaway Club level. So if you are a brand new cruiser, you will be booking these for Disney Cruise Line 75 days in advance. And then, based on your level, you can book them earlier if you have a higher tier of level. You will go online and book these at midnight on that date. And what they are is you are essentially booking a field trip from the ship. I think that is the easiest way of
That's
saying it. In general, you are going with a group of people. There are some private ones out there, and there's some really important things to know about private ones, but we can get into that.
yeah,
But you will book these as a group. You may have 10 people with you, you may have 20, you may have 70 people with you, depending upon what it is. And it will take you someplace in your port, and it is going to, for the most part, it's going to be something that is culturally, something tied to that port. And it may be historical, it may be animal, it may be nature, it may be art, it may be experience, it may be cooking, it may be alcohol, it may be beach. I mean, there's so many different things when it comes to port adventures. And again, we're going to kind of get into nitty gritty as far as booking these through Disney, booking these on your own, that kind of thing. But this is essentially what we are talking about here.
Federico, a lot of these excursions will depend on where you're cruising. The port adventures that are offered are going to be very different if you're doing what you did a Greek cruise, right? They're very different than if you're going to the Caribbean or if you're doing Alaska, right? So they're going to be related to where you're going, but they can get you outside your kind of comfort zone a little bit to get to see things that you might not otherwise see.
Yes, I do want to, especially for first-time cruisers. I have this question asked for from many of my clients. Do I have to go out of the ship in any of these ports? No, you don't. If you want to stay inside of the ship, you can do that, and you're gonna have a lot of entertainment and a lot of food options. So it's not like some people think that, okay, if we're going to Nassau, then everyone has to leave the ship and then come back when it's time to come back. You can stay and enjoy the ship if you want to. Now, the other thing is that if you decide to leave the ship, you can do it by yourself. You don't have to book one of these port adventures to enjoy the things that these ports have to offer. For the most part, well, in some of the ports, you're going to be able to just walk and get in the historical or more touristic places or of each destination. For some others, you're going to have to do it by yourself, and you're going to have to take some sort of transportation to get there. But the Port Avengers, as you said, Chris, offers you more specific experiences that probably you're not gonna have if you explore the ports by yourself. So they are sometimes, as Elaine was saying, for very different tastes and things that you want to do. Cultural, adventurous, just for easy going and for more active people. But yeah, I think it's a great way for you to know in advance the things that you're going to see. And if there's something, like for example, I was doing the Greek cruise, and we had a stop at Athens, and I wanted to see the Acropolis. And that was one of the things that I needed to see because it's, I wanted to see it.
Bucket list, baby, right?
Yeah, it was my bucket list. So I decided, okay, I'm going to book a Port Avengers because I want to make sure that I'm going to have transportation to the Acropolis. I'm going to have the tickets to go in the historical place. I'm going to have a guide that is going to give me information, and I'm going to have some other perks. Like, for example, a bottle of water. I'm going to have, even in some cases, you're going to have lunch included. So it's a way to make sure that you're going to have everything that you need in order to see some places that otherwise are going to take much more of planning to do if you do it by yourself.
Yeah. One of the things, so let's talk a little bit about how you book these. And as Elaine mentioned, depending on your this depends on a little bit on your Castaway Club level. If you don't know what your Castaway Club level is, that means you're probably a first-time cruiser 75 days out. If you're a silver cruiser, you've done more cruises, 90 days out. Gold members, 105. Platinum, 120 days out. And Pearl Castaway Club members, 123. If you're a cruising concierge, it's 130 days, and you just email the concierge team, and they take care of it for you. So it will depend. So if you're first-time cruiser, or even silver, my recommendation is look at a couple things and have a couple things in mind, because things might be sold out. There have been a lot of folks who have gone before you. You can book these on disneycruise.com. You go to your reservation page, and I'll have a little how to do that. But you go to your reservation page, it will say My Reservations, click in there, and then you go and you can actually see day by day and see what's available. You can check what's available before your activity window opens. Just go to disneycruise.com. There'll be a place that says destinations. Go down there, choose where you're going, Caribbean, Europe, Alaska, wherever it is. And there'll be a whole list of things. The important reminder there is that is everything that Disney offers. You will not see the specific things available for your cruise until your activity window opens. So we just did a show on Facebook pages and for specific cruise itineraries. This can be one of the things that you can find that dclshow.com/Facebook groups. And one of the things that these can be helpful, and I just did it. I'm going on a cruise coming up. I posted all the things that were available to the Facebook group, so folks who have a lower down level can at least have an idea of what they're selecting from, and you can sometimes find that out there. So be sure, and it's one of the advantages of doing that. Elaine, people can book on board, but I often kind of recommend that they do it beforehand, right? There will be a port adventure desk on the ship. But how do you, when people say, some people like to be more spontaneous, how do you guide folks on that?
Yes. And I did also kind of really want to emphasize what you just said about that list that you can see on Disney Cruise Line for each port. Like you said, I really just want to emphasize this. This is everything that could or might be offered, but Disney really does keep that you cannot see what is going to be offered for your sailing, or like you said, what is sold out and not sold out until your window opens up. And that is one of the, I would say, number one questions that I get from my clients, especially those that this is their first cruise with Disney Cruise Line, because they want to see what's available so they know what their choices are, and you just don't. And it kind of is not great. Like it is one of those gate kept things that they do that you just cannot see. Or even
people get
for
frustrated about it, right?
Yeah, or even guests that are going concierge that are putting in their requests. They don't really know what they can request because they don't really know what's going to be available. So it's just very, that's why we say pick out a few of them. And I really like, we talked about at the top about how, there are things that are, fit into different categories as far as exertion and adventure and what you like. You can sort that when you're looking at the list. There's all kinds of filters. You can sort it by age group as far as what age they allow kids to join and how adventurous it is and all of that. So and make sure you click the little read more buttons and read every single detail, because it's going to answer so many of your questions as far as what you need to bring with you, what you need to wear, what you should not bring with you. Do you need cash? Are you not allowed to bring cash? Do you need, sturdy shoes? Like all of this stuff. There's so much information right there. But yes, 1,000%, if you can book in advance, book in advance. I would not wait to get on the ship. There are people that, believe it or not, do not plan out anything in advance. And that's just how they make it. They book the cruise and then they don't do anything until they get to the port. And I don't know if that is just a lack of knowledge or realizing that you can do these things in advance. I don't know. But they're, the people that are well informed and the people that watch this show and do research in advance is only a portion of the people on the ship. If you can book in advance, because things are going to sell out, especially on a lot of these, I would say, more not necessarily like Bahama Caribbean, even though those sell out, but the things like Alaska and Europe and these kind of like bucket list destinations, these things do book up and they do sell out. And so there are going to be things you're going to want and they're not going to be available. So my
And
trick that I always tell people is to make sure, like, if you are gold and you're checking 105 days out and the thing that you want is already booked up, wait until about a month before your cruise and then start checking. And especially when you get within 2-3 weeks of your cruise, that is when everyone kind of gets a little like, oh, I didn't, I'm now seeing these numbers in real time and I need to come up with this money, or I didn't save this money, or, I don't think I want to do this anymore. And people start dropping stuff so much, and you can find so much available when it comes to shore excursions. When you get right within that 2-week mark, then you can really pick up a lot of stuff. So definitely watch there.
Federico, one of the other questions that we always get asked is, do we have to pay for these beforehand? That's not how it works, right?
Yeah, I was just doing a reservation for a shore experience on Royal Caribbean, and my credit card was charged at the moment I made the reservation. In Disney
Well,
Cruise Line, it doesn't work that way. You're gonna be after you read all the description that Elaine was saying, everything that is included in the Port Avenger, everything that you need to know before making the reservation, you're gonna select the party and the time and make the booking. And then nothing is gonna be charged on your credit card. They're gonna charge you when you are inside of the ship, and it's
mhm.
gonna appear on your cruise folio, which is great if you're booking your cruise with Dreams Unlimited Travel, because the shipbook credit that we give you for booking with us is going to be able to help you pay those port adventures. So it's going to go on your cruise folio when you're there, and it's going to be charged when you're inside of the ship. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's different from other cruises, other cruise lines, and you're gonna have that flexibility also of canceling the things that you don't want to do when you change your mind.
So I'm going
I
to
want to
open a
mention
can of worms. Yeah, go.
I want to mention one thing, because
Yeah.
Federico brought up something really good about how when he's booking on Royal Caribbean, he has to pay for it at the time that he booked it. Unlike Royal Caribbean, on Disney Cruise Line, the price is the price is the price is the price. When you are booking a shore excursion or anything on board Royal Caribbean, it's almost kind of a game that you have to keep checking back of just about every other day, because they constantly change the
Really?
price, put things on sale. You can cancel and rebook to save money. I mean, it is a big time investment. It's like not like that with Disney Cruise Line. The price you see
Yeah,
is the price, is the price, is the price. So book it and be done with it.
and
You do not have to keep going back and checking it.
and also
That's
availability is what it is. So sometimes I get clients that said, "Well, this is not it's not available online. It says that it's sold out. Can you call Disney Cruise Line to see?" No, we have the same availability. So we're gonna be able to help you to book this if you need to, but we're not gonna be able to find anything different than we can see online.
Right, right.
one other point that I wanted to make about. So we're talking about port adventures here and excursions. At the same window, you can book on board activities. Not This is for things like wine and beer tastings, or a whiskey tasting, things like that. Even spa activities. There are a bunch of things that you can book beforehand on the ship. That happens at that same window. Adult dining, for example, that will not be everything that happens on the ship. There will be a lot of activities that will show up when you get to the port and you connect to the DCL guest Wi-Fi network. Your DCL Navigator app on your phone is going to change and fill in with all sorts of activities, many of which don't require you to sign up ahead of time at all. The other, and I have a whole section later on, we're going to kind of do a whole list of pro tips. But one of the questions we often get is, the kids clubs are open when you're in port. So if you have small kids and you want to do something off the ship, you can leave them on the kids clubs. I would personally, I would let them know, hey, we're going to be off the ship, so they can plan accordingly and deal with that. But you can do that. So because there's some things that little kids just aren't going to enjoy. Let me open up the topic that's kind of people can talk a lot about, and that is the pros and cons of booking a Disney port adventure versus going outside. And there are all sorts of, and we'll give you a couple websites that you can check to check outside. I'll start it off by just saying, if you book through Disney, the pros are, the ship's not leaving without you. If you're on a Disney Cruise Line port adventure, and somehow there's some issue, the bus breaks down or something, they are not leaving. They are going to make sure all the Disney excursions are back before they leave, and they will hold for you if there's something that happens. If you're doing outside, that's not necessarily the case. Now, there are many folks who will say, we guarantee you to get you back to the ship, because you're going to have to arrange to get to probably an airport or a bus or a boat or something to catch up with the ship. But they will guarantee that. But it's a nice thing to have. The other thing I would say, the cons are costs maybe more. If you book through Disney, there may be less flexibility. The one thing I will tell you that, and I'll actually give you an example, but Disney vets these folks up and down. And we were in Norway and doing a Norwegian cruise. Love it. Highly recommend. Expensive, but highly recommend. And we were doing the helicopter over the glaciers. And I didn't hear this from Disney. I heard it from the helicopter pilots, but they almost had to cancel that itinerary, because the pilot of the helicopter, fully certified and everything, but according to Disney standards, did not have enough hours flying with passengers. And that was a Disney requirement that was above and beyond any other requirements that are out there. They take this stuff very seriously. And it actually made me feel pretty good to know that, okay, they're looking out and making sure that these are vetted and safe. And it's a nice situation. So, Federico, have you ever done outside of Disney port excursions or adventures?
No, never.
Wow.
No, I have done. I don't
I
cheat.
have a really good story.
Well,
I have a real,
you
so
have?
this is not, I tell people, if this is your very first cruise, book through the cruise line. Do not book on your own. Please book through the cruise line. If you're going to, Europe and you've never been to Europe before, book through the cruise line. Or like if you're going to Jamaica, book through the cruise line. For me, myself, if it was me traveling alone or if it was just me with my kids, 100% I'm booking through the cruise line. However, there was a circumstance last summer when I went to Alaska. So I had sailed previously on Disney Cruise Line to Alaska. I was very familiar with the ports. I was very familiar with the excursions. Last summer, I went on Royal Caribbean to Alaska, and I happened to be traveling with my boyfriend, and the one thing on his bucket list was doing whale watching. And so when I'm telling you, I get hyper fixated on something, I was bound and determined I was going to find the best possible whale watching experience known to man so that I could take him on that. So I found that the ones that were through Royal Caribbean, that they were kind of very much larger boats, and so they couldn't get as close to the actual whales. And so I started looking at outside companies, and I think I probably read 200 reviews at this point to really narrow it down and to book through an outside company. And I mean, because again, I am one of those very conservative people. I am booking through the cruise line. I want to play it safe. I don't want to miss the ship living without me. I want to make sure. So this was going to be a very big thing. So I spent hours and hours and hours and hours researching this and reading reviews and watching videos and reading recaps from people and that kind of thing to find the company that I could trust to book through. And so I did end up booking through an outside company. I even called them. I said, look, I'm a travel agent. I asked a whole bunch of questions, that kind of thing. All of that. So the day came, we were in Juneau, we got off the ship, it is torrential raining. And I mean, they even said, like, this is one of the things you have to look at is when you are booking with an outside company, what is their cancellation policy? Because for the majority of them, if they are canceling the day of, you're not getting a refund. And like with whale watching experiences, they do not even guarantee that you will see a whale. So make sure you are reading your cancellation policy. We get to and this company said, it doesn't matter if it's raining, we're still going out. Like that's what they said on their website. So it is torrential raining. I mean, we are absolutely drowned. We get off, they're there, we line up, we're getting ready to get on the bus to go to the boat, and they say we're canceling. Okay. So, and at this point, I mean, we are drowned. I mean, it is pouring down rain. So it's like, okay. And so I knew, because I had booked the very first one of the day, because again, I'm playing it safe, giving myself lots of buffer time to be able to get back to the ship before it leaves. And so I said, what about the rest of the ones you have going on? And he said, no, we're going to cancel them the rest of the day. Okay. So at this point, we went back to the dock because right when you got off the ship, there was tons of little like huts right there of people offering excursions right when you get off the ship. Every single one of them said, no, we've canceled the rest of the day. We've got no boats going out. And so, of course, after all of the hours we've put into researching this, we were very disappointed. So we took off down Juneau. We walked all the way to the very end of the street. Couldn't really find anything to do. It's pouring down rain. We went in the bar, sat down, ordered very large drinks at the bar. I get a phone call from the original company that I booked. She said, did they cancel you? I said, yes. This was the owner of the company called me. And I said, yes. She said, okay, we're going out at 2:30. I'm going to rebook you on that one. You need to get down to the original meeting place you were at. You need to be there in 10 minutes. Okay. So we took off running, ran all the way down the street. But the fact that she called me to make sure, like, hey, like that she checked up on me, you know what I mean? And so we got back down there. They put us on the bus, put us on the boat. We went out. It was freezing. It was raining, but we were this close to those whales. And like I said, I was traveling with my boyfriend. He said this was worth every single penny. This made the entire trip worth it. All of the, like, everything that we had to go through to get there. But we got to see the whales and we got back on the ship on time. But just know that there are a lot of factors and a lot of things that could go wrong. But
and I think the big takeaway from that, I love that story. The big takeaway there is you will need to do all the research that Disney does. You are going to have to do on these, and definitely it's worth it doing to make sure you're getting what you're getting into and know all the parameters of it. So just be aware of all that. There are a couple of websites out there that focus on these things specifically. Shoreexcursions.com is one that I've looked at a lot. The site offers a selection of excursions around the world. You actually can type in your cruise and it will tell you what's available for your different destinations. It's very user-friendly. It's quite nice. The other one is Viator, Viator.com. This is a TripAdvisor company, and they also have tours and activities all around the world. And they're not exclusively focused on cruise excursions. So if you're doing a pre-cruise stay, like I had friends who were staying in London before going down to Southampton to get on a cruise, and they wanted to you can go up to the Harry Potter where they actually filmed Harry Potter. They did that through Viator. And so they got a little bit of a better deal than they would have if they just booked it direct. So there are options out there to do those things. Federico, one of the questions we get is the types of excursions, and these can really run the gambit. There can be cooking things, there can be boat things, there can be beach things. If you're in the Caribbean, there's almost, I mean, it's a pretty wide selection, which can feel so overwhelming. It's like walking down the toothpaste aisle and you have 55 different types of toothpaste, for goodness sakes. It almost can be overwhelming, right?
Yes, my recommendation is always to look on the internet for the port you're visiting, just to get an idea of the things that you're going to see, the main, touristic destinations. And as you said, Chris, sometimes you have port adventures that are just transportation from one place to another, which is great because, for example, if you want to go to if you want to have a beach day, and you know that you don't have you have no idea how to go to that specific place where you want to spend the day. There are some options where they're gonna pick you up at the ship, they're gonna take you there, and you're gonna have the day to enjoy by yourself and then take you back. For example, in Castaway Key or in Lighthouse Point, they're called Port Avengers, but they're uh, really just like the rental of the things that you're going to be able to use that are not free, that are not complimentary. For example, the bike rentals, things that you can use to enhance your day at the private destinations. And as you said, there are much other that are much rich in terms of the knowledge and the experience that you're gonna have. There are also adult only excursions, which are great if you just you want to keep a certain pace. And one thing that I think that I always recommend that you do is use Google Maps to see the place where the destination is compared to the port of the ship, because Disney sometimes is going to offer port Avengers in places that are far away from the port. For example, when I was in Naples, they were offering port Avengers to Positano, which is more than an hour away from Napoli, and the traffic can make the trip even longer. So you're gonna spend an hour and a half on the transportation just to spend a couple of days in the actual destination. So keep that in mind. Just make a research, because they tend to have a lot of information and it's very detailed, but there are some things that they are not going to tell you because they don't know how bad the traffic will be to get to one point to the other. So keep in mind just to know the exact, or the actual time that you're going to be spending on the experience and not on the transportation. But yeah, you're going to have options for all kinds of experiences that you're going to have if you do want to do them. As I said before, the other option is just to go and explore by yourself. What I recommend is do one, maybe two port adventures on your trip, and then the rest of the time enjoy by yourself, which is also a different
And
kind of experience that are going to
And
be.
I think Federico is so that's such a good point, that there are going to be ports where you can just get off the ship and there's a great little town. Ketchikan is a lovely little space to spend time. You don't necessarily have to do something. I mean, it's great if you go do something, but you don't have to. There are a couple other places that you can, a bunch of places, a lot of the stops in Norway, you didn't have to do a port excursion, a port adventure if you didn't want to. But definitely check out your port and where you're going to. If you're in coastal Rome, where they stop, Cecchevicia, I'm not saying it right, but there you go. It's an hour and a half, 2 hours to get to Rome. So you're not getting off the ship. It's basically a port. It's a pretty industrial port. So have that kind of stuff in mind before you go. Wanted to offer some just some tips and tricks for as you look at these excursions. After you're booked, the Disney Cruise Line will tell you on the page. They will let you know what you're going to need in terms of dress. I always bring water, sunscreen, bring your ID with you. You're going to need at least your driver's license or something like that to prove who you are. I always pack a small bag, particularly I bring some snacks with kids. Remember, you're not going to be able to bring anything off that's not wrapped, but they'll have like whatever those are called, the sandwiches that are wrapped up. They'll have those kinds of things on board for you. And definitely when you're booking, check, they'll list how difficult it is. So if you're not as mobile, there will be excursions for people with disabilities of various kinds. There will be age restrictions. Be sure and check that stuff. Well, they won't let you book it. If you have a 2-year-old and it says 5 and over, they won't allow you to book it. But pay attention to that. That gives you a good guide of what kinds of things are going to happen. The last thing that I would say is it's okay to take I call them a ship day, a sea day on board. And on the Western Caribbean route that the Disney Treasure does, you have a sea day, then you're at Cozumel, then you're Grand Cayman, and then Jamaica, and then a sea day, and then Castaway. And I usually use Jamaica as a kind of a little bit of a sea day for us, a break, because we have done things at Cozumel and Grand Cayman. And so it's perfectly fine for us to recharge a little bit. We'll have lunch on board. We'll be able to use the Aqueduct or the Aqua Mouse or whatever with fewer people on board. It's a lovely way to spend some time. Anything else, Elaine? What else should people know as they look at things? And then we're going to get into tips. But what else should people consider?
One of the really big questions that I get asked a lot from my clients is they'll say, okay, what are the best excursions to do in this port? And it's like, I can't really answer that question for you because it really depends on you, your family, who you're traveling with, and what you like. So there is no best excursion anywhere. It's what is best for you. And that's why I say definitely go to that list on DisneyCruiseLine.com and think about, what does your family like to do? Oh, we like to hike through the woods, or oh, we like to go to the beach, or we like to see animal and nature things, or oh, we really like historical stuff, or we want to do pirate stuff, or whatever. Like, you have to think about what is important to your family and what do you like doing. Then you can sort that list and kind of narrow it down to, okay, here's the 10 things that fit within that category. Which ones do we definitely not want to do? Okay, cross that off the list. Okay. And then kind of just talk about it with your group and say, okay, what sounds the best? What fits into our budget, that kind of thing. So it's kind of one of those things. It's a very, very, very hard question to answer. What's the best excursion in this port? Because there's no right answer.
And it will,
different for everybody.
It will also depend on if you're a multi-generational family and you have parents who may not be as agile. You need to have those things. Now, you may choose to do different things. For example, when we were in Alaska, we did the helicopter to the glacier, got to ride the dogs up on the glacier. So cool. I was traveling with my parents. My parents did not want to do that. That scared the daylights out of them. Their amygdala just was going off. So you may choose to do different things, and that can be fun too. You talk about it at dinner. Any other things, Federico? Anything that you'd suggest people just in terms of so they know, and then we'll get a little into some of the pro tips things.
Yeah, but I wanted to say something about that flexibility that Disney Cruise Line offers. Compared, for example, with Disney World, I have clients that said, okay, we want to book a Disney World package and we want to go to the theme parks 4 days, but 2 of us only want to go to the theme parks 2 days. So please make a package with, because we don't want to go to this specific theme park. We can't do that. Everyone has to have the same amount of tickets. With Disney Cruise Line, you do have that flexibility, and there's so many things to do when you're on the ports or when you're on the ship that you can split. And okay, so I'm gonna do this Port Avenger, the other part of the group are gonna do this Port Avenger, and the other part of the group are not gonna do anything and just stay by the pool, getting tan and getting drunk. You can do that with Disney Cruise Line, which is great because it allows more, and then you can meet during dinner, and everyone will talk about the experiences that they have during the day. So do that. Don't be afraid of, you know, to feel like you have to do something because the other person in your group party wants to do it. You're gonna be well. Uh, you're gonna have company and you're gonna have a great time. So enjoy that flexibility that Disney Cruise Line offers
Perfect.
with
I want to
how
be
you book
conscious of
the
time because I don't want to go over too long. But Elaine, I did want to talk about if you're cruising with folks and you have multiple staterooms and they have different Castaway Club membership levels. So we have one person with a pearl, one person at a silver, one time a first-time cruiser. They're all going to be booking things at different windows. What do you recommend folks do?
It is so hard. There's no right answer. And I literally just wrote an email to one of my very, very, very good clients that books several cruises with me every year, that they were in this situation where they were a higher level than the other stateroom that they were traveling with. And they're like, we want to book Palo. There's no good way of doing this. And this happens a lot. And this would be true of any shore excursion as well. That I said, well, you essentially have these choices. You can book yourself on your date. And then when their date comes open, book them as well. Try to get as close a time together. And then when you get on the ship, ask them to combine the reservation. You can not book yourself. You can wait until the latest date comes open and then book whatever you can for your group, which might be the best option as far as excursions would go. I said, or you can just book just yourself, and then when you get on the ship, then try to have them added to yours. But you cannot do that with excursions. That would only be a Palo kind of a thing. With excursions, the numbers that it's open is what's open, so you can't necessarily add people to your excursion. Now it is really, really, really hard unless you can only book the people that are in your stateroom to be able to bump up a Castaway level. You can't book anybody else. Same with concierge. If you have a concierge room traveling with a non-concierge room, that concierge date cannot book for those other people early. It doesn't work. They cannot do it. So yeah, it is very, very hard. I have several people that they will have multiple staterooms traveling together. And so they will try to do a situation where they will book, let's say they have 6 people traveling total, 3 and 3, and 2 people from this room and the 2 people from this room both want to do zip lining. I did have this happen. So they booked all 3 of their spaces for zip lining. And then when they came over, they canceled one of them and they moved one. It's very complicated. There really is no tricks. There's no way of doing it. It's book what you can when you can, and we'll try to rearrange and hope everything works out by the end of it. So
yeah, it can be, and it can be for planners, it can be frustrating, and people can get like, oh, we want to all get it, and it do the best you can. I would always recommend booking sooner, and particularly with port adventures, you can change those. Well, with all of them, you can change them up until, I'm going to mention that in a second, before your cancellation window. So just and keep checking. If something you really wanted is not available, keep checking, because things change all the time. People cancel their cruise. They can, who knows what happens, and they change what they want to do. So
and that's almost one of those situations where maybe you do want to look at booking directly with the supplier, where particularly if you have a lot of staterooms, if you've got 4 or 5 staterooms traveling, and you're all different Castaway levels, and you must go on the dog sled on the iceberg, or your vacation is going to be ruined, then that's going to be a time that you need to look at one of those third-party suppliers. And I mean, if you do the research enough, you can actually find the exact same supplier that Disney Cruise Line is using and book through them directly if you can. So that might be the answer to that question. So
a couple of pro tips, and we'll all chime in here. But one is cancellation windows. That technically it's 3 days before your departure. I always suggest people use 10 days before your departure, or even 2 weeks. After the 3-day mark, they are final. They are non-refundable. If you don't show up, you're still paying for it. So please keep that in mind, that after your 3-day window, you can change them before that. Again, use 2 weeks, and change things around if you're going to. But remember that there is a window, and then you cannot change them after that. There are adult versions of port adventures. If you want to do those, absolutely, you can take them, and they'll be listed that way. There are VIP versions. I did a VIP version in Elaine? Where's the in Alaska with the train? Skagway. Thank you, Elaine. And it was a VIP version, and so we got our own guide who was dressed in a little costume and played a role of somebody who was back in the gold rush age. We had larger seats. We got a lunch with it. There would be various things. It's also more expensive. So kids, again, can stay in the kids club. Bring some cash to tip, particularly this is how a lot of these folks survive. And so I always bring cash for tips. Two other things that I'll mention, and then I'll open it up to to Federico and Elaine. But there are post-trip excursions. So on your last day, and we did this in Alaska, and I actually found out about it in a Facebook group. But you can't book them ahead of time. You book them, at least for Alaska. We booked it on board, and if there were enough people. But it was great. Our flight wasn't until 11 o'clock, 11:45, something like that. So we got off the ship. We put our bags on a bus. They took us on a tour of Vancouver, and then took us up to the suspension bridge, and we got to experience that. And then they dropped us off at the airport, keeping our bags safe that whole time. It was a really lovely way to spend an afternoon. So be sure and check and ask about those, and those might be available. The last thing I'll note is if you're doing Europe, Adventures by Disney has either pre or post-cruise escapes. These are a couple day trips that you can do either before or after your cruise. So if you want to have a deeper dive into Rome, and you're sailing out of Cecina, you can do that Adventures by Disney escape. I will tell you, I've done it in Rome. I've done it in London. They are awesome, and they'll get you a lot of it gives you a little taste of both Adventures by Disney, but also you get things that you don't normally get. Like in London, they get you to the crown jewels before it even opens. It's lovely, so you're not thronged with people, and get folks in Rome. We got on the floor of the Colosseum and got to be right there. So these are things. Adventures by Disney, not the cheapest option out there, but the nice benefit is whether before or after, they will either drop you off at the port or pick you up at the port, so you don't have to worry about those kinds of things. So that can be kind of nice. Federico, any pro tips you'd add?
Book with us, of course. The best one. No, you can use the onboard credit to pay at least a fraction or a part of the port adventures, depending on how much onboard credit you're gonna get. So it's a great option, and it will cost you nothing. So yeah.
And Elaine, I should have mentioned there are also accessible. They will talk about accessibility options in the write-up on the Disney Cruise Line website. So make sure you pay attention to that stuff too. Elaine, any pro tips for folks looking at these?
Yeah, definitely pay attention to those, because it's going to talk about, down to the point of you need to be able to step up 15 stairs that are 16,
right,
that are 6 inches each. Like, it's very specific, and it talks about, being able to navigate gangways and that kind of thing. So please, if you can bring wheelchairs, if you can bring scooters, if you can bring walkers, like all of that kind of stuff is found in that like drop down boxes. So please make sure you review those. Most of my pro tips I kind of said throughout the show, but just as Chris said, what's really one of the big things is bring some cash in local currency with you, because these people that are running these excursions, like I said, they're mostly not employed by Disney, and so they are outside companies. They are making all of their money. I mean, especially these people. I think about Alaska so much because these people literally move to Alaska for the summer to
Yeah.
work these jobs to support their families. And I went on one of these Best of Skagway tours where it was like an 8-hour excursion. We did like 5 different activities, and every single one of them at the end, they were all kind of standing there with their hands out. So they are expecting you to tip them in cash. So just be prepared for that. The other thing that we didn't get into that I just want to just put in here as our due diligence is if you are booking a private excursion, you do need to be aware that this has some different policies that the other excursions do not with Disney Cruise Line. When you book a private excursion, you have to pay for that up front right after you book it, and it basically gets added to your cost of your cruise. So you have to be paid in full to be able to book excursions. And let's say I booked one of these private, let's say I did like a private yacht excursion. And if it's $2,000 or whatever it is, that $2,000 then gets added on to the cost of your cruise. You need to then, if you book directly, call Disney Cruise Line and make that payment. Or if you book through a travel agent, you need to call your travel agent so that you can get that paid immediately. Because otherwise we are going to be paying for it out of our commission, and your travel agent is not going to be very happy with you because of that. And so it does need to get paid for right away. And they are also non-refundable, and you cannot cancel them. So make sure if you are booking one of these that this is what you really want to do, and you are prepared to pay for it right away, and that you are not going to cancel it, because there are some stipulations that happen around those.
Federico, favorite port adventures that you've done? Give me one or two.
Well, I'm gonna be very simple. The Castaway Key package, it allows you to enjoy everything that the island has to offer. You get a bike that you will be able to see all the things that the island has. You get the floats. You get yeah, I think it's that. But yeah, it's not cheap, and it's gonna be a great option to have everything that you need to really enjoy Castaway Key. So that one.
And they have the Stingray thing on Castaway, which is so fun.
Yeah.
I think I don't do it. I want the animals to be able to live their life without me pawing at them. But I know a lot of folks. It's a great way to get kids attached to it. Just one of the warnings on Castaway Key: the bike wouldn't be canceled, but if you do parasailing or things like that, the winds at Castaway Key are such things often get canceled. I would say at least 50% of the time, it's kind of a flip of the coin as to whether those are going to go. So just and you're fine being on Castaway Key without doing anything. So I'm going to press you, make you talk more, Federico, because give us something from you just went to Europe, for goodness sakes. One of those had to be an amazing excursion that just left your jaw on the ground.
Yeah, the one I talk about, the Acropolis experience that I did in Athens. Yeah, it's a great way to see a very important historical place, and it gives you less things to worry about in terms of planning. They take you there. They have a guide that you can ask questions to. It's just make it so easy, and it's a great way to really enjoy the place without having to worry about all the details. So again, if there's something that you know is close or is part of your destination, do that as a port adventure, because it's going to make the experience much more enjoyable.
Yeah, absolutely. Elaine, you talked about whale watching. I'm sure that's among your list. And I know, and I've heard you talk before about some of your Alaska excursions. I think you hit all the awesome ones in Alaska. But what favorites come to mind?
Yes, love I mean, that's when I think about favorites, it is Alaska, and
Yeah.
I thought the first trip was going to be a once in a lifetime. Only got to go on once. I was blessed enough. I've been able to go twice now. Both times, absolutely awesome. If you are on an Alaska sailing, 1,000%, if it is in your budget, and you are Disney Cruise Line stops at them. Not all of the other um, cruise lines stop at it, but if you have a glacier day where you are just pulling up close to a glacier, that you're not getting off anything like that, they will
Yeah.
offer an excursion. Disney's is $300 a person, where they will put you on a small ferry boat and they will take you right up there. It is 3 hours long, and I did question what are they going to do for 3 hours? Well, it did say it takes some time to get on the boat. It takes some time to get it there, and then they will actually kind of take you around the area and point out waterfalls, animals, icebergs, that kind of thing. And so Disney Cruise Line offers it twice. They offer it in the morning, so they will actually get on the little boat and they will race ahead of Disney Cruise Line's boat and go out to the glacier. And then by the time Disney Cruise Line's boat gets there, then you get back on. And then in the afternoon, it's the opposite. You will get off and Disney Cruise Line kind of pulls away, and then you race back up to meet them, kind of a thing. And so it is. I've said this many times, if meeting the Disney characters in their Alaska outfits is very important to you, book the afternoon one of these. It is truly a bucket list experience. It's absolutely amazing. I will remember that for the rest of my life. Also in Alaska, the whale watching, of course. And then I did this in one of my times in Skagway, and I do know that some of the other ports just everywhere that Disney go to, so they will sometimes offer these. If you can find a best of, now this is going to be good if you're traveling by yourself or with adults. It's not necessarily don't necessarily offer these for kids. I did this while I was by myself in Skagway, and it was absolutely amazing because I can decide what I wanted to do. Every port adventure looked amazing. And so this best of literally hit everything. We went on the train. That everybody says you have to go on the train in Skagway, but that's a very long, like, port adventure, and it kind of
Couple
cuts
hours,
out
right?
of this best of. It went on the train. It went to the gold rush town at Liarsville. So you got to see all of the reenactment and the plays, and you got to see all of their little, like, buildings there, and then you got to pan for gold. And then they took you to a salmon fry, I think that was what it's called, where you had an entire meal of that they cooked in front of you, and the man sat there and he played his guitar and sang while you were eating. And then they took you all the way up the mountain, and you had this overlook of the whole town where you could take pictures. And then they took you in the town, they took you to the Red Onion and did a whole tour of the Red Onion. And so it was an all day thing, but it was absolutely amazing, and you got to do everything. So definitely look out for those best ofs because they are fantastic and they are worth every penny because you actually save a lot of money doing those rather than doing things individually. So
On the glacier day, we did the ship, the little boat. Get off the ship to get on a boat to go up and see the glacier. They also offer drinks with glacier ice in them, so you can get a glacierita. It's very fun. It's. I mean, what could be better? So I had that as one of my favorites. Out of Cozumel, if you're doing Cozumel, we did something on our last cruise called the Clear Boat. I don't know if people might. I always heard about these, a glass bottom boat, and then you actually get on, and it's like a little portal it's not really glass bottomed. It's like these are plexiglass boats, and it's like it was a phenomenal experience. The people who did it were phenomenal. It's called the Clear Boat. Highly recommend. I've also done they have a submarine that goes down about 100 feet, which was fantastic fun. I know people after the whole submarine incident can freak out about that stuff. It didn't feel claustrophobic to me, and they've been doing it for years, but that was also very fun. I've done helicopter rides in Alaska and in Norway. You get views of those locations that you do not get And the other one that I will say is I did one of those marathon in Naples, Italy, where we went to Capri, we went to Sorrento, and we went to Pompeii, which of course is the town that was destroyed by Mount Vesuvius when it erupted so long ago. But we've learned so much about how they lived. And it was long. We literally started at 6 a.m. and got back at 6:30 at night. It was a long day, but it was amazing and a great time. So there are amazing things that you can do, and I think it helps those memories really come to. Thank you. We've gone long, but I thought it was all such great stuff. It's well worth it. So, but we are going to wrap things up. As I always tell you, we'd love for you to book with Dreams Unlimited Travel. Literally, it helps pay for what we're doing here. And I'll tell you, I was a Dreams client before I was a Dreams agent, so I know the value. It's you get what you don't pay anything, and you get free money, and you get a lot of expertise. So best place to start, dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. You will select a Disney cruise. On the first page, it will ask you your itinerary of your cruise date. And somebody sent me a message saying, hey, I want to look at numerous dates. There'll be a request section down at the bottom. You can say, hey, this is the main one I'm looking at, but I would like to look at others depending on, and so you can put those in there and we can offer guidance about that. So it's easy to do. On the second page, there's a pull down menu. All of the Dreams agents are listed there. You can select one. They're all awesome, really, truly. But you don't have to. You can, if you want to select Elaine, you can do that. That's the easiest way to get in touch with her. But Elaine, if folks want to reach out to you and have a question for you, how do they do that?
My email is Elaine, ELAINE, at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com.
And Federico, how do they reach you?
My email is Federico, which is FEDERICO at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com.
Awesome. And if you want to reach me, I'm Chris V at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. Yes, there's a Chris, so I'm Chris V. I'm also on social media at Yensid Travel. Yensid is Disney spelled backwards. It's also the Sorcerer and Sorcerer's Apprentice. So Yensid Travel on most of the social media platforms. And I've added a new way that you can reach out to us. You can leave us a message. Just go to DCLshow.com/message. And you can record a message. It's really easy. We just got started on this, but we've had a couple of messages come in, so it's great to hear from you. If you have questions, comments, ideas about the show, it's very helpful. As always, special thanks to our producer Jimmy Valdez, who makes us look so good. Thank you, Jimmy, and a very special thanks to you for joining us. We appreciate spending some time with you each week. So thank you for being here. Depending on where you're watching, listening, hearing this, we're back on the podcasts that are all working now. So you can find us there. If you leave a review, it really helps. If you can like, subscribe, do all those things that make the algorithms help us with algorithms and help people find us. I don't fully understand it. I'm not a techie guy, but I grew up in Southern California, but I don't understand how it all works. They play around with it. But if you have topics for us, you can leave those on the YouTube show. I check that all the time. Also, our DCL fan Facebook page, where there are a bunch of people talking about Disney Cruise Lines. Or again, send a message DCLshow.com/message, or you can send me an email too. With all that, it's a great show. Thank you guys. With all that, safe travels. We'll see you real soon. So long.